Hello. Yes, I'm Leah McPherson from Cultivate London, the founder and manager of Cultivate London. How does this work? There we go. Right, I thought I would start by telling you all a story. This story is about Joey, who is a typical person who would come to us at Cultivate London. Joey was born and raised in Hounslow, and for those of you who don't get out west too often, it's kind of like where Heathrow is. Joey's about 22 years old now. He left school when he was 15 or 16 without any qualifications, didn't really excel in an academic setting. Bunked off school a lot, was a bit hard to control. He's been receiving benefits now for 6 or 7 years, and as a man of 22 years of age, that's a considerable amount of time to be receiving benefits. He has a 2-year-old son with his partner, and he's still with his partner. His little family move between his mum's house, his partner's family's house, B&Bs when they don't have anywhere else to live. So it can be quite certainly not a stable life, let's just say that. I came into contact with Joey at the local Job Centre Plus office in Hounslow when I was initially recruiting for our first tranche of about 10 young people to start with us at Cultivate London. He presented as quite shy, unsure of himself, lacking confidence, but seemed a little bit interested in what Cultivate London might have to offer. So Joey came to us at Cultivate London, and Cultivate London is new this year, so when he came to see us for the first time, we were 2 people in a parking lot and a bunch of soil standing next to us. And he started with us initially as a volunteer, so doing between 10 to 15 hours with us a week. Joey rocked up every single day that we asked him to, and sometimes some of the days that we weren't really expecting him in. He was really strong. He turned his hand to everything. We found out along the way that he refused to use Stanley knives or any kind of sharp cutting implement, and that was because he'd had quite an abusive relationship with a stepfather. So some things he was really good at and really kind of up for, and other things we couldn't quite figure out, or it took us a little while to figure out why he just was not going there at all. And so we developed a really kind of good relationship with Cultivate London. Joey seemed to love coming, so we offered him our first ever apprenticeship. So Joey is now receiving a salary. He's gone back to college and working towards a qualification for the first time in his life, and he's loving college. I kind of was a bit concerned that his reading and writing skills might mean that he didn't feel confident. But he's loving it. Every Monday, off he goes to Capel Manor College, comes back with things to tell us and things that he's learnt, and has become a real leader for the rest of our young people at Cultivate London. We have between 8 and 10 young people with us any given day of the week. We have 2 apprentices. Joey's our first, and he has very clearly taken like a duck to water this kind of leadership role and being able to set an example for the rest of our young people, show them how we do things at Cultivate London, and almost step in and do some basic teaching. That's been amazing for Joey. His confidence is probably higher than his confidence has ever been in his life. He feels like Cultivate London has provided some opportunities for him and his family that perhaps he would otherwise not have been. And I think also for Joey there's a sense that life and the future going forward is exciting, and perhaps there's a bit of the unknown. And I think before he was at Cultivate London, tomorrow was always going to be the same as yesterday, and the week after next was always going to be the same as the week before. And that's a pretty kind of depressing state of affairs for a 22-year-old man to be in. Which brings us to, I guess, the whole employment issue with urban growing projects. And is a CV enough? Do we need to help our people with CVs, or is there a whole range of other things that come before the CV? And I would argue very strongly that the CV is the absolute last thing that you work on and pull together, and that's from our experience at Cultivate London this year. Some of the things that we know our young people need, whether they know they need it or they know they don't, if we're talking about young people who've been receiving benefits for 6 years of their lives, they're in their early 20s, perhaps they've come from families and households where they've never seen a parent go out to work, that's not a kind of usual normal life, then part of what we do at Cultivate London is get them into a regular schedule. This is what time we start of a day, this is what time we finish, this is when we have lunch, this is when you have breaks. Some, just really kind of basic stuff that we might consider basic, but are perhaps very new things to people who've never worked before. There's also something really important about helping people start to communicate the needs and pressures that they're under. So if you're not feeling well one day, then picking up the phone and letting us know that you're not well and coming in is totally fine, but you do need to pick up the phone and communicate. That's the non-negotiable there. And starting to have people respond to you positively and learn new things and take them in your stride helps you develop confidence and improve your self-esteem, which is a really crucial element of giving people skills and experience so that they can then go out and get more work. The ability and the capacity to learn, I think a lot of our young people, school hasn't worked for them, they feel like, or they've been told that they have dyslexia or another learning difficulty. I would argue that some of them don't have any learning difficulties at all, but the traditional school environment hasn't been the right learning place for them. So a lot of it is starting to undo their idea of who they are themselves and replacing that with a really positive, no, you can do this and you can learn that because you have already learned all of this and you don't have learning difficulties. You just need to understand how you work and how you learn. And once people can kind of get their heads around that, that places them in quite a powerful position to start to drive the rest of their learning for the rest of their lives. And then the socialising with new people. It's quite amazing. Our young people, I totally overlooked the whole boredom factor of young people receiving benefits and how you're just bored. Every day is the same. And Cultivate London offers a change in that, and it offers challenge and something to learn, and it offers young people the chance to socialise and interact with different young people. So people they haven't met before, people who will reinforce the point at which they're at in their lives, is which, they are motivated to work, they are motivated to learn, and putting them in a group of other young people who are also motivated in those same ways is incredibly powerful, more powerful than myself or my colleagues getting up and kind of, trying to drive them there. So, they're kind of, some of them are leaving old friends behind or kind of reducing the amount of time they spend with them because the positive future things in their lives are being reinforced by this new peer group that they've got through Cultivate London. So I would argue that all of those things come before you even think about a CV or sitting down and talking to a young person about a CV. At Cultivate London, all of the soft skills and employment skills and confidence and self-esteem stuff happens while we're growing food, and in our case herbs and winter vegetables. So, at the same time as all of those soft skills, our young people are learning plant and pest identification stuff, growing, harvesting, packaging crops, getting food to market, hard landscaping skills, building our sites certainly this year. Once a young person has done 3 months with us on our sites, we look to put them on a work placement with another company in their 4th month. So that's about... We have found that our young people get quite settled and comfortable in the little Cultivate London bubble, so it's about kind of, moving them on when they're ready and getting them to take their skills and experience and apply that in a different setting, help them, develop new contacts, start them developing their professional networks. So the National Trust are really fantastic partners, and they take on our young people on work placements, as does a local landscaper, as do a couple of local food retailers. And so once, they've kind of been with us for 3 months and they've done a 4th month with someone else, then at that point we start to come back and say, well, let's put this down into a CV that makes sense for you, and let's start looking at some jobs about where you want to go with this. And, by that stage, that's enough time for them to kind of understand what they think they like and what they think they're not so keen on, and allows us a bit of space to help explore that with them. In terms of Cultivate London, just on the day-to-day specifics, our young people are aged between 16 and 24. They have to be living in the London boroughs of Ealing or Hounslow. And they have to fit that NEET category, so no longer in education, employment or training. And the way that we engage with young people is Job Centre Plus, the local offices. I've spent a long time kind of cultivating relationships with them, so they pick up the phone when someone who hits that criteria comes into their office. So we get a lot of referrals from our local Job Centre Plus offices, but also connection services, MenCap, local family and friends who've heard about us and know us. The word's kind of starting to spread. So we're quite open in that respect. And I guess we're very much a training organisation, and I guess the thing with the whole kind of employment and skills program is, you know, the training cycle is good, but where does that lead to? Otherwise you can get stuck in a perpetual cycle of training. And for us, we have a capacity to offer 2 apprenticeships per year, and they're paid, and that also kind of comes along with the diploma. Apprenticeships with other companies, so I do a lot of talking to other companies and identifying other apprenticeships and kind of, you know, helping our young people move into those. The National Trust is a good partner and takes people on work placements, yeah, and a few other kind of people who offer work placements as well. For us going forward and the employment and skills thing, obviously youth unemployment is the issue of the moment in the papers, rising youth unemployment, yeah. Lots of big concerns, not a whole lot of clear direction about how that's going to be worked on as yet, although there are some rumblings from government. But I guess for us at a really local organisational level, 2012 for us means more land, which in turn means more training and apprenticeship opportunities that we can offer to the young people out in West London, which also comes along with needing more links with employers so that we can move our young people through us and into something that is longer lasting. And yeah, and we'll keep our eye on, you know, what government says about supporting more jobs and apprenticeships or whatever that ends up looking like. But I guess for us it's about not relying on government and relying on local providers, other local employers, and very much going out and actively developing those relationships for ourselves. That's it. There was a short film in there, I must say, that didn't work when I got here. But it is on our website, and it's a really kind of nice way for you guys to see our young people talking firsthand about what they've learnt at Cultivate London and what it's meant to them. And I would, if you've got a few spare minutes, it's cultivatelondon.org and it's on our homepage. So, yeah, check it out. But thank you.